Hello and welcome to Hop On Board. My name is Chris Flores, and in this video we'll be learning the two-player game, Very Civil Whist, designed by Serval, art by Don Hegarty, and published by Phalanx Games. Let's get to it. A Very Civil Whist is a retelling of the First English Civil War in the 17th century, where the two players will assume the roles of either Parliament or the Royalists, fighting for control of England and Wales. The Royalists and Parliament both need to garner domestic support while advancing the war fronts on 4 different tracks in order to position themselves for victory. A Very Civil Whist is driven by a trick-taking game based on German whist that builds players' hands in a preparation phase of the game and allows them to then, in the action phase of the game, attack one of those 4 tracks. Players will also need to manage their hand properly in the action phase of this game in order to increase their domestic support. Another resource in A Very Civil Whist is an asset, a one-time use ability that players will gain through different means along with their leaders. Leaders provide an interesting twist on the trick-taking mechanic of this game, granting the attacker, or lead player in trick-taking terms, a special advantage on the war track that they choose to attack. Each war track has victory spaces for the 2 factions at each end, and at the end of each round, if a player has advanced 2 of those war fronts to their victory spaces and has enough domestic support, then they win the game, with some backup victory conditions if no winner is decided after 4 rounds. So let's see how the game is set up while covering some key concepts and components. Here are all the components needed to play a Very Civil Whist. Let's take a look at the asset and leader markers first. Parliament markers are red and Royalist markers are black. Assets are rectangular and leaders square. Decide which player will play each faction and give each player their starting leaders, marked with an asterisk. One of the Royalist assets, Charlotte Stanley, and one Parliament leader, Cromwell, begin the game on specific spaces of their faction's domestic support track at the right side of the board. One Parliament asset, the Covenanters, begins the game in London. The way these are unlocked for their player will be covered soon. The cards used in A Very Civil Whist make up a standard deck of playing cards. The 4s through 9s are action cards, and these are the cards that will primarily be played in tricks and used for building up domestic support. Shuffle them and place them in this space marked Action Cards. The Jacks, Queens, and Kings are event cards. Shuffle them and place them in this space marked Event. The 1s through 3s are Leader Casualty cards. Shuffle them and place them in the space marked Leader Casualty. And finally, the 10s are bonus action cards. They may be placed face up in the final card space on the board. The rest of the areas of the board use chess pieces for markers. There are 4 war tracks marked with knights. Place a knight on each of the 4 war track spaces marked with an asterisk. Each war track is suited differently. The spades, diamonds, and hearts war tracks are on the map, and the clubs war track, known as the foreign support track, is located here. Both players have a domestic support track on the right side of the board. Place a rook in the top space of each of these tracks. Finally, place the queen on any space of the trump track and the king on the first round space of the round track. Now let's talk about how tricks are played in A Very Civil Whist. If you already feel comfortable with the concept of a must-follow trick-taking game, especially with a standard deck of playing cards, you can probably skip ahead to the next section of the video at this timestamp. If you're unfamiliar with that concept or trick-taking in general, I'm here to show you the way. In A Very Civil Whist, a trick is a contest between 2 cards, one played by each player one at a time. There will almost always be a winner based on the number and suit of each card played, but in A Very Civil Whist, there are opportunities for ties, which we'll talk about soon. During each trick, there is a trump suit. In A Very Civil Whist, the trump suit will typically be active for a round at a time, and it is currently hearts. The first player to play a card is the lead player, and the suit of the card they play is the lead suit. They may lead with a trump card, but they've opened with the 7 of spades. Their opponent must play a card of the lead suit if they have one in hand. If they do not, they may play any card. In this example, the defending player does not have any spades in hand, so they can't follow the lead suit and play the 4 of hearts. This is the basis of a must-follow trick-taking game. With both cards played, the winner is determined. Trick winning priority is as follows. First winner is always the highest card value of the trump suit, so the defender wins because hearts are trump. And if no trump card is played, then the highest card value of the lead suit wins. So let's say the defending player did have spades in hand and instead had to play the 6 of spades. The attacker would now be the winner. In a very civil whist, if a tie occurs due to a player's leader or asset ability, the lead player wins. And just like that, you now know the core concept of thousands of games. You may still have questions about areas on the board, but as they become relevant during the different phases of this teach, they'll be broken down in greater detail. Each round of the game is broken into 2 phases, the preparation phase and the action phase. The preparation phase consists of 7 steps. First is to create the action deck. This step is skipped in the first round, but that's because creating the action deck for round 1 is done in setup. For clarity's sake, we'll pretend it's the second round for a moment, and the action cards, remember these are the cards numbered 4 through 9, are in their discard pile from the previous round. Take the discarded action cards, give them a shuffle, and place them on their designated space. Next, deal 8 action cards face down to each player. Then, resolve 2 events one at a time. Event cards may provide players access to one of their assets or instruct one of the players to resolve some sort of effect. In our example, the first event card drawn is the King of Hearts, an event representing the execution of King Charles I and granting the Parliament player their execution asset. They place the asset in their play area and the second event is drawn. The Queen of Spades. To resolve this event, the Royalist player takes 2 random cards from the Parliament player and then returns any 2 of their choice. Next, determine the trump suit for the round using the Queen piece. The player currently winning on the foreign support track determines the trump suit. Reference this track on the board and note that its starting space in round 1 is on the Royalist's side. The Royalist player will always determine trump in round 1. And let's say they choose spades. Then, play 4 planning tricks. Draw 2 cards from the action card deck and reveal them face up. The side leading on foreign support will lead this first planning trick. The winning player chooses one of 2 revealed action cards and adds it to their hand, and the losing player takes the other. Any cards added to hands from planning tricks may be played in later planning tricks. In our example, the Royalist player is first to play and plays the 6 of clubs. The Parliament player must follow with their 4 of clubs. No trump cards were played in this trick, so the highest card of the lead suit is the Royalist's 6. The 2 cards played are discarded, and the Royalist player chooses to take the 5 of hearts into their hand, leaving the Parliament player to take the 5 of clubs. Reveal the next 2 action cards, and the opposite player now leads. Continue this until all action cards have been drawn, alternating the lead player. Then, place leaders on the board. Both players simultaneously place leaders face down on the leader boxes for each war track. Always place as many leaders as you can, 1 per track. Once both sides have assigned all their leaders for the round, reveal them. And the last step of the preparation phase is to add claimed bonus action cards to your hand. Remember, the bonus action cards are the 10s of each suit, red cards for Parliament and black cards for the Royalists, and are claimed by varying means notated on the board. When a bonus action card is claimed or played in a trick, place it in its respective player's play area to be claimed in the next round. Now we can move on to the action phase of the round. In the action phase, players take turns taking one of 3 actions until one player has no cards in hand. Beginning with the player that is leading on the foreign support track, players may either 1. Attack a war track, 2. Increase their domestic support, or 3. Play an asset. Attacking a war track begins by the acting player announcing which track they are targeting and then leading a trick. The card they lead with must match the suit of the track they announce unless they do not have a card of that track suit in hand, in which case they can lead with a card of the trump suit. A couple of leaders allow a card of any suit to be played on the track. This is a good time to specify that only the attacker's leader on the designated war track provides its effect for the trick. Even if the defending player has a leader on the same track, their leader's ability is not used. This is very easy to miss. After playing the lead card, the attacker may then commit an asset to their attack if the requirements listed on the asset are met. The defender then plays a card and may also commit an asset. If the attacking side wins the trick, they advance the war track's front marker one space toward their final victory space. If the attacking side loses, the marker stays put, and the attacker checks for a leader casualty if they have a leader present on the track. To resolve a leader casualty, draw 2 cards from the leader casualty deck. If the sum of the 2 cards drawn is greater than the casualty rating printed on the leader marker, then the leader is removed from the game. Otherwise, there is no effect and play carries on. After every leader casualty check, return the 2 drawn cards to the leader casualty deck and shuffle it. In our example, the Royalists are first to play, and they would like to attack the Hearts track. They really want this victory, so they'll begin the attack with the 9 of Hearts. Their leader, Rupert, would allow them to play 2 cards whose values are both lower than 6, in this case only meaning the 5 and 4 of Hearts. They don't have either of those cards. They would need both to really use the leader, and so play carries on to the defender. Parliament only has 1 heart in hand, and so they must play it. The 8 of Hearts. Powerful, but not enough. Therefore, they lose, and the Royalists get to advance the front marker 1 space toward London. It is now on one of their victory spaces. Let's take this back, and then say Parliament did not have any hearts in hand. They then choose to defend with a trump card, the 5 of Spades. The front marker now stays in Newark, and a leader casualty check must be performed for poor old Rupert. 2 cards are drawn from the leader casualty deck, a 1 and a 2. Rupert's casualty rating is a 4, therefore he gets to fight another day. These are shuffled back into the leader casualty deck, and play carries on to the next player. A player's second option on their turn is to increase their domestic support. To do so, the acting player must play a card of a suit matching their color, red for Parliament and black for Royalists, that is of a greater value than the number currently marked by the rook on their domestic support track. Advance the rook into the next space and claim any rewards indicated by that space. It's now the Parliament player's turn, and they would like to increase their domestic support. Their marker is currently on a 6, meaning they would need to play a heart or diamond of value greater than 6 to advance. They have the 7 of diamonds in hand. They'll discard it, getting to move their marker down 1. A reward is associated with this move, gaining the 10 of Hearts. The Parliament player will now search for the 10 of Hearts in the bonus action cards and place it in their play area to be able to claim at the beginning of the next round in the preparation phase. A player's last option is to play an available asset that includes as an action in its effect text. Remember that assets are one-time use and are removed from the game after being used. It's the Royalist's turn again, and let's say that they've claimed this asset into their player area. The backside of this asset says that as an action, you may change the trump suit. Powerful effect. They choose to do so, they discard the asset, and the Royalist player's hand is heavy in diamonds, so they move the queen onto the diamond space. Now let's jump ahead to the end of the third round to where one player has run out of cards, triggering the end of the round. Note that the Royalist player is the only player with a card in hand still. Return leaders on war tracks to their respective players and then check for victory. Remember that to win, a player must have advanced at least 2 of the 4 warfront markers to their colored victory spaces and have the necessary amount of domestic support, similarly advancing their rook piece onto a space of their color. If neither side claims victory, advance the round marker and begin the next round's preparation phase. If victory cannot be claimed after 4 rounds, the player with the most war track front markers in victory spaces wins. If there is still a tie, the side that won the last trick wins the game. In our example, victory has gone to Parliament because their domestic support track is at a 9, and they have claimed victory in 2 of the war fronts on the map, Hearts and Spades. And that is how you play a very civil whist. If you found this video helpful at all, please consider liking, subscribing, turning on notifications, and letting me know what you liked or didn't like in the comments below, especially if the games that I've covered up to this point seem interesting to you at all, as there are plenty more in the pipeline. Keep getting great games like A Very Civil Whist to your table, and encourage others to hop on board. Cheers.